I'm bored to do the same stuff, and we are living in the AI era. So why not to try to use all these tools that we have available? And this is literally what happens. So this is like one of the merge requests from our production GitLab that from the beginning till the end have one developer and a bot, and it was like merge without human interaction. What we're gonna talk today is about 6 things that you can do maybe in a week and do something similar in your company. Welcome today. So my name is Serhii. I'm currently an engineer manager at Mark & Spencer. But for the next 30 minutes, I will be talking a bit about different topic in my previous company that we were doing AI-powered code review. So it was a legal tech SaaS, and we're going to talk about a few different things like how we decided with the tools, how we build the architecture, how we work with the prompts, and of course a lot about context, how we work with the context, what models we choose, how we choose the models, and actually talk about the price. So where it actually all started, and it started with just a message. I think that week I was doing the same code review message for 4th time in a row in a week. So I was like, I'm bored to do the same stuff, and we are living in the AI era. So why not to try to use all these tools that we have available? And I think at that point of time, CodeRabbit was quite popular on X or ex-Twitter, and I was like, do you want to give it a try? One of the important things that was considered is we need to have self-managed instance because we have a lot of different compliances and some different stuff. So in a month, we actually shipped something, and I'm going to talk a bit more. So I usually try to stick everything with the data that we have, and I was thinking is it only me who have the same issue again and again and again? So I just get the data for the last a quarter, and there was around 2,000 merge requests, and I was trying to find, do we have a lot of repeated stuff, what our engineers write again and again? And actually it was. So I just put these five top categories. So it was about null safety, test gaps, or crossing concerns and all these things. So I was like, all right, so where we can go from there? And how we actually can say how much money and time we waste. So we have 200 developers, we have hundreds of merge requests per week, and we have all these patterns. I don't know the final number, but it's painful. So this is the reason why we're just thinking we need to try something that will save money and time. And at that point of time, and it was about a year ago maybe when it all started, Claude Code was just starting. It's really good run, and mostly we had Cursor or just Copilot in VS Code, and it was really good for autocomplete, but not really good for all these complicated things. So what we're gonna talk today is about 6 things that you can do maybe in a week and do something similar in your company. So I will talk how we related tools, how we build the architecture, how we work with prompts, how we work with the context, how we choose the models, and about the cost. So it's just part of the table that I spent some time doing the evaluation. And at that point of time, it was 4 tools that get most of the attention. So CodeRabbit, most famous. GitLab Duo is only because we were using GitLab Enterprise. So it's something that they try to build and try to get working. So Greptile is something that was recommended by our VP of engineering. And something we tried is to find the best open source model, open source applications that actually doing the same stuff. And at that point of time, I was told money is not a problem, we are paying. So the decision was done to choose Greptile because it's actually just having a checkbox of all our important things. So it's checking security, it's checking quality because it's like just the tools that we are paying a lot of money for, and a lot of operation stuff we should not worry about, updates, model scaling, so we just consuming the stuff. But in the end of the day, we were like, all right, we need to we need to try something new. And something interesting, I was here 1 month ago on the City of Craft event, and the guy who is the CEO of Tesla was speaking, and I was asking him, what are the best companies that get the most of AI? And like, he told quite interesting things that I remember till, is like, is not a startup companies, whereas they have just few engineers, and not an enterprise company because there is too much bureaucracy. It's something like in the middle. And this actually worked because I was told, you have time, just try it. Like, we give you like 2 sprints. So try this open source tool, and we'll see how it will go. So a few things why we decided to go with open source is because we will own the code. I mean, like, of course, we will fork it. So we will own the prompts. We will choose the models, and we can pretty much implement whatever we want. An important part, if the company will scale, it doesn't matter how many seats we will need. So this slide is more like to show you how easy it is to actually run it in production as a first version. So around 6 weeks, and it's literally setup that we had in our GitLab, in GitLab CI, we had a job just to run an image with some comments that will add 2 different comments. Like, first command is review, that will provide pull request review as a senior engineer, and improve is a comment where there will be a recommendation in the code itself. And for 6 weeks, we have it like this, and it was not really scalable because we don't have a lot of control over it, and we need to change configuration every time, push another change, get through the review. So we're thinking like, all right, so we see it works, and we have some positive signals. What we can do next? What we did is like, we set a dedicated repo, and instead of just running it on demand as a job in GitLab, we added a Kubernetes pod that was like running 24/7 and was working as a webhook listener. So in this scenario, we actually give everything under our infrastructure, all the Helm charts, all the other DevOps shenanigans that's happening, everything was in our control as well. So how does it work? So at first, when developer create a merge request in the GitLab, we are listening for the webhook event. So it's either open, update, or comment, or like when the event, like when the pull request is going from draft to ready. So we are having a webhook listener that is like always listen for these events from the GitLab. Then we're going for the event router for the slash commands or like after triggers. Next step is pretty much like the heart of this review is the context retrieval. And we're going to talk about each step a little bit more afterwards. Then we go into the model chain. So we are choosing which model needs to make the review. And we started with the smart first because we really want to have like good reviews. Then afterwards, like the bot just send a comment in the merge request. And also, it's important part of all of this architecture is having a feedback loop from day one. So we ask our developers just to mark their the comments from bot with like green, yellow, or red. And then we GitLab emoji API, we can pull all of this data and like build everything in Grafana to have it visible. So we have 2 entry points. So first one is mostly for power users who really want to have like most of the control, most of the features. Every time they create a merge request, they can manually write down /command. So we had like review, improve, describe, that is literally going to create pull request description for you when you're super lazy to do it so by yourself. And also ask when you just want to ask a question to the code base or like to the pull request. And you can actually do on someone else's pull request if you're not sure about some specific thing. And after triggers. So when merge request is opened and is going directly to non-draft state, we will run review automatically. And second condition is like if the merge request was in draft and then was moved to ready state, we just like triggers the review again for everyone else. So in this case, we have like two categories of people who should be happy. So usual users that don't really care much, but really nice to see pull request review, and someone who rely on it a lot. Right, so how we work with prompts. And I think this is something that was like, started like really, really well, but quickly started to become really, really hard. Because you cannot, like when we have only like 5 rules or 10 rules specific to our company, it was fine. Like we just send just one single prompt and it's working as expected, good results. But when we start to scale all these rules, all this documentation, all these things, so it easily started to appear that we have a real problem. We have like context bloat. We have so many things in one prompt, and the results getting worse and worse and worse. So then we went to the second version of like what we implemented. So what if we will start to run rules only to specific like paths? Maybe like something related to the DB will go only data rules. What if something like with TypeScript will go to the TypeScript rules, right? Makes sense. But what will happen if there is like some files that is like services, DB, and it's TypeScript, so everything will explode. And then the most important part that was chosen is like how we can use the best of AI to choose the context for AI. So what we did. So we have few different inputs, right? So first of all is like pull request metadata, title, description, div. We have a huge library. There is like different rules, documents, markdown files, and we actually pull in the Jira context, ticket, description, all this stuff. So first things first, we cannot just take all this like library and pull into prompt, as we talked before. So what we are doing? So first, we're doing heuristic pre-filter. So out of all the documentation, we built a ranking according to the keywords in the pull request. And even without AI, trying to build the top 30 to 50 documents that actually related to the pull request. So we filter out even like pretty quickly. And then we actually can stop here. Right? We know the documents that we're going to use, and we already have everything ready. But what if like all these documents have 5,000 tokens, 10,000 tokens, so which is already like crazy. So what we did next, we're using cheaper model, so Gemini Flash with temperature 0, just like to always have the same results, and asking AI according to the changes in the div, according to the Jira context, what actually the documents fit the most for this pull request. And then in every document, we had an agreement to always have headers and always have like everything split into sections. So then we actually have all these like documents, all the sections, and we are doing second LLM call just to focus on specific sections that we want to have for this pull request. We also have some kind of like fallback chain just to make sure everything is like working as expected. And in the end, what we have, after all of this happens, we have 20 to 40 sections. Every each of them is like up to 300 characters or maybe less. And just sending it to the LLM. So this is like a real example how it works. So if we will take a look here, we have, I most likely you don't see it, so I will just say it. So we have like few keywords like services, getting paid, payments, invoices, Stripe. And in the end, we have a line where we already see what documents were used. And we see that like we use the documents regarding getting paid, we use service stuff, we use Stripe. So we only use documents that do matter. And how it looks like in the end. Because in the end, like, it's a huge, huge prompt that is sent to LLM with all the rules, with all the files changes, with all the diffs. And we want it to be as concise as possible and to include all the critical information as possible. So as a part of the prompt, we will just have project documentation context, what files were used, what sections were used, and what was inside the sections. So we're also thinking about how we can make sure we are not doing too many requests when we don't need it. So we actually implemented like 5-minute cache per URL, so per merge request, where we can just return the same context if, let's say, we use 2 different commands, like we use review and improve. It's like given 2 different results, but the context is the same, right? So why we need to build it twice? Right, so also what we added is like how we can include Jira into the context for the merge request and to the PR review. And actually what we noticed is was like 87% of child tickets was empty description. So if you will just include empty description, it doesn't matter. So we also added the epics, and we actually added function to check if if merge request is actually compliant with a ticket, because are we actually writing the code that we should write? Is it right? Is it something that we were expecting? So at first, because we were experimenting, we were not sure is it going to work or not, we use OpenRouter as a main models provider. And there was like a lot of reasons why to do so. It's like one API surface, many models, we can choose whatever we want. It was fast to implement. The prices are the same as from the vendor, so why not? But few things that started to appear as the problems is like not all the models were fitting for our security security like policies, and we need to switch to something that vendor provided. And at that point of time in the company, we already had Vertex CI, and it was pretty obvious why we chose Gemini as a main model provider. And we have much more control over it, and we have like clear monitorings, logs, budgets, security stuff. So it was an easy choice for us. So it's important to understand that AI review is more like a suggestions, and it's more like an advisory thing to do, because like AI still can hallucinate, AI can give bad results, and I think something that Simon mentioned before is like what will happen if there is like prompt injection or something like really bad happened. So we're still having this as a separate line in the merge gate, right? So we still make sure that CI/CD is working as expected, all the linters, all the tests, all the stuff is running there, as well as Sneak. And AI is going there more like as an advisor. So this is like few real examples what we had in the end. So the bot itself just like write down inline comments, so developer can just apply suggestions, or you can literally chat with proposed changes. You can agree, you can disagree, I don't know. You can just ask to do some random things. And also what we built in the latest stages is if the pull request is pretty much simple and there is no much of improvements that needs to be done, we implemented new /commands that called self-review done. So we, as developers, take responsibility for the work we did. And we said, yeah, we applied all the changes that was proposed. And then PR agent is actually approving your pull requests. And it's actually up to you to decide if you would like to add PR agent to your code owners. So if you edit it there and it approves your pull request, you can actually merge your code without like human interaction. And this is literally what happens. So this is like one of the merge requests from our like production GitLab that from the beginning till the end have one developer and a bot, and it was like merge without human interaction. Because it's literally just, I think it was pretty simple, just removing some JSON file. So why developers need to spend a lot of time reviewing something that is pretty simple? So yeah, what else? I think like few things that we built on top, and I shared them before, was how we can have to approve all the work on zero findings, how we can chat with the code base, and important part, when we ask questions, the context retriever trigger again, related to the question itself, and not only to the changes in the pull request. And also, we built some kind of like stability thing inside of the bot, just to make sure we're not missing all the commands that are going from merge requests, because sometimes, let's say, in the same time, there was like 5, 10 merge requests created, and we don't want to miss any request. So why I mentioned that feedback loop is really important, and it's important to build it from day one. So first of all, we were trying to understand if it's even like useful, if it's even like giving some value. And in one day, as a part of my routine, I was like looking at the graphs and saw that actually our satisfaction rate is going down. And at first thing, of course, went to the code base trying to understand what we shipped wrong. Is there like a production incident, or what's going on? And funnily enough, it was already like after we were working in Vertex CI and Gemini, they updated the model. We were using the latest version, and the model they shipped was actually giving worse results. And then, when we understand that this is the issue, we quickly rolled back to the previous model, and like satisfaction rate goes up. Right. So as a result, after all this like adventure, I would say, what we had in the end in like few months is every week we have around like 300 AI reviews comments, even at MVP scale. We have people from different teams coming to us and saying, can we get it? Like how much it will cost your time to do the same for us? And cool stuff, it's like maybe hour, maybe 2. And of course, it was just a pleasant thing to do to receive a CTO grant for advancing AI. Right, so the playbook in 5 lines that you can, I think, do. So today is Tuesday, maybe like next week, on Monday. Evaluate different tools. I think like right now, AI is changing so quickly, and like there is so many tools appearing every day that it's really hard to keep up. But still, as developers, we are responsible for proper investigation in the tools that we would like to use. So please spend as much time as possible in order to choose the right tool in the beginning. Second point, I think, is like own your own prompts, because if you don't know how it works under the hood, you don't know what to expect. Build the feedback loop from day one. It's pretty much what I mentioned before. We need to understand if it was useful, if our developers happy, and if Google again silently updated the model. Enforce CI, not in the prompt. Still, don't forget that CI/CD is an important part of our journey, and this is where most of the hours like trust should go. And important parts that we choose is like road by complexity, fallback by failure. Is choose stronger model first. Just start with like a pro model or like Opus model. And then if it's for some reason just don't give the good result, just like fall back to the something like that is next one in the line. So if we're talking about Gemini, it was like Pro and then Flash. Right. Thank you everyone. I think we have like a few minutes for live Q&A, but also feel free to catch me after the talk. Yeah, thank you. Any questions? Yeah, sorry.
Thanks for the talk. I was curious if you could tell us a little bit more about why you chose the kind of 9-step pipeline that you did for retrieval augmented generation instead of a vector database, instead of something that...
Yeah, I think it was like one of the things that was like just screaming at us, like make vector database. But we decided to go with an easy way, because vector databases will include additional infrastructure, additional complexity, and at that point of time, we just don't want it to have all this additional complexity. And we kind of see that it was pretty much working, and yeah, I'm no longer working in that company where we done this stuff, so maybe like stuff is changing right now. But at the moment when I was like doing all these things, I was like, no, it's just too complicated. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. One would be the PR size. Like,
yeah.
Do you set some limits or?
Yeah, so it's pretty obvious if you will have like pull requests with like 100 files and 200,000 of changes, it will not work well. This is the reason why actual development rules in the company was playing well, because we had an internal agreement and kind of like hard rules that all the merge requests should be small, right? So something that you can ship in one day. So most of the times it was like few files up to a few hundred lines, so it was like pretty fine. But of course, sometimes when you need to just refactor a huge thing with like just renaming, it was not working really well. Yeah, so there was a limit of 150,000 tokens per the review. So if it was going more, the bot will just send a message, hey, it's too much, I don't want to handle it. So it's either split or just make sure that other developers review your pull request.
Okay, makes sense. And the second question, did you look into like trunk-based development?
Sorry?
Trunk-based development where you don't do PRs, basically. Is there like option around that? Or?
Yeah, we don't invested too much time into this. It was like just usual flow, how you like just create pull requests, just run through all of this stuff. And I know that right now that company is trying to implement more like spec-driven development in a way that like, all right, we just run the specs and we delegate all this like review to the bots and then see like where the developers actually need it. But yeah.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Silly question. I'm quite loud. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's actually okay.
I'll use this. It's fine. It is silly because it was a really good talk. 87% of subtasks had no description. What was in them?
So I don't know why, but a lot of people was creating stories and creating like sub tickets in every like. Yeah, like this is something because I mentioned like we are trying to get like change done in one day. So this is the reason why, let's say, story can be like describing all of the stuff that needs to be done, and then sub-tickets can be just like implement this, yeah, just a title, because it will kind of make sense, but then we just like, yeah, if you just pull this information from empty description, like it will not give you any value. So let's try to go level up, and then maybe like if the story is empty, which is usually I think not the case, then we just like making sure that we pull at least something to validate if the merge request align with what needs to be done.
I think it's quite interesting going through all of this and like having to explain it to a robot, or let's say, you know, and you realize just how bad our processes are dealing with humans, and how much we infer and just make stuff up and go wrong. And when we're having to go through all of this, just go, oh, this is not very good. Do you find the same?
Yeah. I think this is something that was need to be changed when we started to adopt it more and more, is like the good practices, like all these processes in place, is like showing the people how good looks like and what we do expect to get better results. Unfortunately, I was not part of the company when there was a conversation about like evaluating this, how good the skills are, how good the rules are. But I think it's like pretty interesting topic to think about. And yeah, I really like the talk from Simon about it. And it's actually just force you to think how good your rules are, how good your skills are, how you can make sure that all this information is actually useful and not just creating a more noise and bloat and just like trying to contradict with each other. Yeah?
So when you're doing the reviews, what were you asking the agent to review? And were you kind of saying, review my code, tell me if it's good or not? I'm assuming there was probably a set of like specific things you wanted to get from that.
Yeah, so if you will take a look at the PR agent afterwards, this is like open source software, so you will see exactly what is the final prompt is. So it's like predefined prompt, like your like AI reviewer, you're doing this, this, and this, and that. So what we did differently is like we injected our personal instructions and our personal rules to align with what is expected from the company. Because like the company is like just doing some legal stuff, so we need to make sure like all these like requirements are matching. There is like no security concerns and like different, I can go back to maybe like slide. Yeah, so this is what most of the things that was covered by all this like pull request review. I would like to mention that you should not like rely on it too much if we're talking about like really complicated work in the pull requests, right? We still need to have all these like senior developers with the knowledge of like how good, what good looks like, how it should work, what is the best solution. So I look at this as more like a helper to avoid spending time on this, right? I don't want to write down, hey, it's missing tests. It should be obvious, and like it's pretty simple for the even like the like just usual LLM to say, oh yeah, there is a function, but there is no tests. So just write it down.
Nice. Do you think it's possible for an agent to recognize that there is something that it doesn't know how to do, in the sense that if you're something more complicated, do you think it'd be possible to get an agent to say, I think there's something more complicated here, but I don't know what?
So, yeah, I mean, like we can inject more additional, like, again, rules or like specific things saying like, if you're not sure, just let us know. But also part of the functionality of this agent is defining how complicated the pull request and scope of like how much effort you will need to spend on the review. And in the end, after the review, you just like add the label. So like the pull request is like 1 out of 5 in complexity. So should be pretty much simple. But if you see that even AI evaluated like as a 4 or 5 out of 5, then it means there is like some additional complexity that you need to be careful about.
Makes sense. Thanks.
All right, cool. Thank you very much.